Alrighty. Yeah, it happened again. I know. You know, it's one of these things. It gave me an opportunity to peek outside, right? The moon is looking beautiful right now. You know, Missy's on top of that. And so if she says that, you know, stop and run outside, run outside. All right, we'll jump up real quick. We'll go take a look together, and then we'll come back on. It's no big deal. It's going to be coming in the next several, like the next hour, I think. Pretty exciting, so it's coming together. I'll just hang out here for a minute, and hopefully the stream will build back up. I'm really sorry, guys. It's one of those things. I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys popping back in. Yeah, it really is bright, right? I mean, now you have Sirius. No, yeah, Sirius, Betelgeuse, Mars, and then the moon off to the. It's just this beautiful play going on right now. It's just so gorgeous, and the moon is like so bright. I gotta go outside next time with my glasses on. Let me grab them now. I have to. I don't want to miss it. I don't know if I should wear the progressives or just my. These. So yeah, I have to remember to bring these out. I have to remember to bring those out. Give me the hangman. Give me the hanged man. That's what we're talking about tonight. Give him to me. I know he's in there. The other. That's the energy of the female that is coming into her strength. The Princess of Wand, wanting to make manifest her will, and she's here to do it. She brought her tiger. It's ready to go, right? This is the idea of the strength card, but realized. Crowley calls it lust. It's the idea of that initial drive that gets us going. It's the one that lets us know that the other, from the respect of the feminine energy, has the power to motivate, has the power to drive, and should utilize that power at all costs, right? The moon. Special card for tonight, right? We've been talking about that. I have that up as like the special card of the evening is our moon card, right? That's a biggie. We're looking into the Hermit tonight, and we're looking into the Hanged Man. Those are the big energies. And the thing that's going to be fueling that is the idea of the recognition that even though it's dark, the sun is always there. She's got it in her wand right here. The sun is always there to reflect off of the moon to provide that. So even in the darkness, the moon's there to reflect a little piece of that sun and keep us safe, right? Really. That's really special, Gabrielle. Let's take a moment to recognize that for a minute. I developed visual issues since the last eclipse. Staring into the sky used to be very scary for me. The eclipse night reminds me of how far I've come. Isn't there it is? You know, it's that's a great moment to like let yourself have that. That's great. And you know, I want to point something important out too when it comes to developed visual issues. I want to rephrase that. Altered visual perception. Beethoven wrote the Moonlight Sonata when he was deaf. Wouldn't have happened if he could hear. Imagine what you're going to see when you stop relying on your eyes. I'm glad. Let that go. Let that go. When you're in the moon, that's the time to let that flow happen, right? And so if you're feeling that coming and going, let's go with that. That's a biggie. That's a biggie. There's that high priestess. There's that camel. right? We just looked at this. Right? All the different myriad of gems, right? We looked at our little box of trinkets that are all those keys to water, all those different water elements. And what is water but the reminder of your divine feminine power? It's dark. It's light. It gives through the act of reception. And it's also one of these very special kind of energies. It's the idea here of once you're open to it, that flow is inward. It's really kind of special. It's about imposing your will out by taking in what the world has. And that's listening to everything that the world has to say to you because you're the one speaking. And so it's kind of about being a completely wide open cup and just letting it all in emotionally and then processing the screen before it gets mental. And so it's okay to take it all in, all of it. All the stuff you think's good, bad, or ugly, there is no good and bad and ugly. It's just what it is. All the feelings that you think about yourself, the things in the world that you think you don't want, just examine them. The things that you think you do want, take a look at what they are and why. Then let yourself have those things. Let yourself imagine a world without the things that hurt you. Imagine a world with the things that you think will make you happy and go through the experience. Try to recognize what parts of that are you and what parts are your ego. Which ones are things that are actually going to help you to be fulfilled as a person and which ones are going to be just there to hold you back. It turns out that the ego at the end of the day may seem like, useful. You got where you are, but it doesn't really care about our feelings. It doesn't really care if we succeed or not. All it cares is that we get tricked into thinking that we're the ones thinking. Let's pull one more and then we'll tell the story. The 10 of Cups. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So what we have here is quite lovely. We're going to pull 4 more here in a second. This is just quite beautiful. If we look at the progression here, I'm just going to kind of put these two together. You have this emergence of the princess into the will wanting to be manifest and is willfully walking into that darkness. It's just like flying into it with courage. Boom, I'm ready. Let's do this. This is a willful entering. This isn't where something happened and it's, oh my God, it's dark. And you have to cope. This is saying, no, I'm ready to do it. And all this light that's going on internally is willingly snuffed into that darkness. And the light that's glowing right now from this scarab that's coming out into this situation here, right? That's emerging from this darkness and is basically entering this moon period is quite lovely. And now what's interesting is the moon card, it represents one thing, but the high priestess is ruled by the moon. Let's just look at that on the bottom there. Any minute now, there it goes. Shoo, sorry about the lag, people. Represents the moon, right? And so these two cards are identical. And we can see that idea here too. Like if we look at the bottom, there's an analog between these two sections, right? And we can look at that at the top as well. There's an analog right there. Right? These two cards are actually the same. There's something that I'm going to try to do here eventually, which is to take a card like this. Let me just pop one up here. Give me a moment to get that up. You know, I went ahead and for backup purposes, scanned all my tarot cards, and that includes the Thoth deck. And since it's a high resolution scan, I could get a really, really good view for you guys. Excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry. My computer, as soon as I open OBS, it really crawls to the point where it's like virtually useless. and it runs fine otherwise. It's just OBS. I've tried every setting possible. I just, again, I don't know. Since Windows 11's update, it just completely is useless. There it is. There we go. Crowley Thoth. Cards. Okay. I guess it doesn't matter. I'll pick on. Let's grab her. Almost. Sorry, man. I tell you what. You know, it really is interesting how the technology is fine, but when it's not working properly, it actually makes the whole process kind of worse. It's sort of like the technology becomes a hindrance as opposed to a benefit. So I'm just going to get that up. Okay, good. So now the whole purpose of that is to essentially get the moon card. So let me take this, pop a filter on it, throw a color correction, and I'm just going to reduce the opacity so that you can see this thing kind of semi-transparent. And what I'm going to do is overlay the moon card on top of that, right? And that's the point is for you to kind of see that overlay. Okay, do you see what I'm doing there? Okay, as soon as my camera catches up, because come on, people. There you go. All right, so you'll get the idea here where the moon is in her consciousness, and each one of those pillars, peaks at that point where there's those rotations of energy coming out from. Coming out from either side, that's emerging from her head and is as this like holographic kind of vibe, right? And now that whole concept is attempting to be illustrated through this idea of this ebb and flow of these competing energies of this red and blue. Now there's a very holy kind of symbolic energy in that red and the hiccuping. Sometimes I cope fine, and sometimes because I'm a visual thinker and speaker, I am completely stumped, like it's literally being smacked in the back of the head every time I look up. Like, okay, wait, so trying to kind of visually speak when seeing myself move in slow motion is very distracting. But that said, though, there's this idea that those red and blue energies are actually the idea of the mercy and severity. Okay, it's the idea of us having the choice of giving two sides of ourselves simultaneously. It's often shown as the milk and the blood at the same time. Like, so we give the milk of nourishment, and we give the blood of our suffering. So it's kind of like the self-sacrifice with the intent of growing another, right? And it's in that sacrifice that we grow at the same time, that we enlighten through our gift. And so it kind of falls in line with the idea of the hanged man. Whenever we can make the choice to willfully enter that space, there's a level of growth that takes place, and we have to be open to that growth, because the result of that is a complete satisfaction. The idea of the Ten of Cups is this idea of every cup being full to overflowing, and more importantly, that is a constant exchange. I've spoken about that here before with respect to the fact that when that exchange is correct, and you're allowing your cup to be filled with divine mind, and then you communicate your heart back. So you hear with the heart and you speak with it at the same time, and you're speaking to the mind, and that communication takes place. Then it's a constant one. It's sort of naturally flowing, and it talks about the idea that I've mentioned before, that by listening to the world and recognizing what you're hearing is yourself speaking, you're now speaking. So even though you're here listening, you're hearing yourself speak, so you're in the state of both at the same time. That's the conversation. And that's how channeling works. That's how the flow works that Eliphas Levi talked about, that even an imprisoned person with only the tarot would be able to basically access universal knowledge and have that constant understanding. Let's take a look. I'm going to pull a separate card for you, Sarav, okay? Let's just pull a separate card for you. December 12th. Wow, that's a long one. It looks like you're going to nail it mentally. You're going to walk in and have a very good sort of mental state, and you're going to feel confident about that. You're going to be the person in the room with the voice people listen to. There's a level of authority with your words. This looks like, though, that you're, as far as if you would consider that you're going to have to travel for the job, it looks like that you might not. This may wind up you being in a different position somewhere with a different location that does not require you to travel as much as you thought. So you're going to kind of remain stationary with respect to that situation. And finally, I would say that it looks like that there's also going to be a completion. This is coming to fruition. You are getting the job. There may be a potential increase in income, but it looks like that there is something not changing, meaning that you might be doing the same job or in the same position with a different company, or you might be not moving or relocating, but that's, okay. Army interview, cool. It looks like you're going to do very well. You know, again, the sword is a very good position to be in. The fact that there's not going to be a lot of motion means that you're going to be staying where you are in some capacity, I feel very positive with respect to that. The whole thing had a very good outcome. And as far as the Ten of Pentacles is concerned, that's the last card in the tarot. That's the full descent down to the tree. That's the bottom of the tree, right? So there's nowhere to go but up. And what it also refers to is the fact that that all of these culminations come to that one pentacle where it's in its complete form. And all possibility physically is at this state. All manifestation that can happen has happened. And from this point forward, all there is to do is to go up. Just to increase from here. Okay? Yeah, the probability is high. High. More importantly, that you will be kind of like seen, noticed due to the your ability to communicate. Right? That activity is going to be noticed. The voice will be heard. All right, that's kind of what that Ace of Sword represents, is the fact that you're going to be the voice in the room that's noticed. Okay. Brianna, I'm glad you made it. Great. Yeah, no, I'm sorry about dropping the stream. The internet kept going down. It's funny too, because I had just gone online saying, hey, if you're in America, vote tomorrow. And then, bang. It just, Explosion where? By you? I had a lot going on last night. There was a lot of several explosions over here last night. I'm not sure if it was a gas line or what was going on, but there were several. Although I hear a lot of ordnance, typically. So near your home. That's not fun. Yeah. Well, hopefully it was nothing big. And that's going to affect anyone too bad. But so now I'm going to draw 4 more cards, and what we're going to look at with these 4 more cards is the lower world version, right? And it kind of switches up some things a little bit. And so let's just take a look at that, though. I'm going to shuffle these and throw 4 more. That's what I was talking about as far as that unified being. See the eagle's red, the lion's white. Beautiful. Cool. I mean, not cool for the house, but really? Yeah, aren't we? What are we in right now? The Leonids? What are we at? Tauruds? Where are we? No, we're in We're entering Scorpio. Anyways. And there's the Hangman. Right under the moon, too. That's a cool spot for that to happen. That's just, that's very neat. Okay. Well, there's that Ace of Sword. That's funny. We just saw that for Sarav. And let me ask you, Sarav, incidentally, if you're still here, are you going for like OCS? What are you going for? Like, are you already in and you're looking for a promotion? Because if that's the case, then I got good news for you. All right. Like, are you up for something? Or are you just like peeking a recruiter? And if you're not here, then forget it. I mean, Six of Sword. That's going to be interesting. Okay, one more. Okay. Oops. One more cut. We're good to go. Okay. And the Hermit. Wow, great. It's cool. You know what's interesting about that? I just want to point something out here. And as we use, guys, so watch me shuffle. I'm not doing anything funky. I'm just going to pull my cards for the today that I chose to highlight for the day. And I had the High Priestess out. We were talking about that before, but I guess I stuck her in the back a second ago when I had pulled that card for Sarav. But she was up there, I promise, because I was speaking to somebody about it before. But that's very neat. And then we just got the Ace of Swords, too, with Sarav, so that was cool. Good mojo in the room tonight, people. Although that happens a lot over here, right? This is a channel for that type of thing. Especially when there's a couple of people in the room, the energy just gets flowing, right? Whenever Kitty, Brianna, and Missy are present, insane things happen. And then you see Vesta pop in, and it's like battery. When Tanamera comes in, it's another one. It's just like this crazy divine energy all over the place, and it's just like, it's a battery for this kind of thing. So now this is a totally different energy on the bottom here, because what we talked about here was the willing, oh wait, I'm sorry, Brianna has a message for everybody. I think we should make sure that that gets seen, because, you know. Okay. This was a willing enter into the darkness with the intent of growing. And now we have the same thing happening here, but from a slightly different perspective, because here this is the end goal, but here this is the end, is getting to the stage. So in the higher world, it's kind of already happened, and this is the lower world reflection of that. But here the sacrifice has to be willing on the down here for the right reason. Because what we're referring to here is the idea that is the why. Why does he choose to do this? It's not that he's done it. I'm going to sacrifice for, but the why. The why is so that others can be enlightened. It's not even for his own personal enlightenment. It's almost like he's already achieved that, and now it's just, you know, he's willing to die so that others can witness, and be inspired by that. But what we have here then is the idea of outward. So here the idea is going into the darkness with the intent of growing personally. Here it's going into the darkness so that others can grow. And communicating that. The Ace of Swords is the ability to just take that experience and just speak it openly. There's nothing in the way. It's the Ace. It's the pure form of communication and divine mind. Just made manifest. 6 is interesting. The 6 of Swords is a very cool card. Crowley calls it science. And what it really ultimately refers to is the idea of these 6 different modes of thinking that converge into that 7th principle. Right? It's the idea of the 6 directions with the point in the middle merging as the pentacle. But what this is the divine form unfolded and being spoken as in all of its glory and science. It's kind of like taking a cube and unfolding it and creating the rose cross, which is the perfect unfolding of that cube. And in that is all this beautiful knowledge, right? It's the idea, and you see this in the card here, it's the idea of Aquarius and Mercury and Aquarius. And just think about the beautiful symmetry and perfection that is the water crystal with its hexagonal 6-fold symmetry, right? There's a beauty in that. And now obviously we have the Hermit, which is this beautiful moment of going through this work and being in that darkness, right? The invoking the lantern, the ability to say, I'm willing to do the work and to risk the hard thing so that I may grow in that process. And now again, the reward of that is this advantage, this conversation that is forever and ongoing, and it gives you the ability to forever walk in that truth, being the new light for others, transforming that energy into the fact of the new light. And so those other people who wind up in the darkness and that are seeking and don't have their inner light yet, it's still veiled. You will be that light of the moon for them, that subtle sign pointer. Because what you don't realize is that when you were in that darkness and you saw that light that was shining off the moon and giving you just enough to kind of see your way, was your other shining to help you see yourself. And what you will do is become that for other people. That's what we have the power to do. But we have to do it for ourselves first. And when we do it for ourselves first, we're finally in the position to be that for somebody else. That's the point. That's the goal here. Okay, so I'm just going to put them all together, and I'm going to pull one more card as a final message, and then we'll move on. The Princess of Swords. The Princess of Swords wants to be heard. The Princess of Swords is in a position of calling out to the world and saying, I'm here. Notice the imagery here, right? We have this princess which has now entered, and she's green. She's green, meaning that she's the combination of mind and heart. The combination of will and heart is purple. The combination of mind and heart is green. It's the yellow of air and the blue of the heart being combined together. And you'll notice she has a blue dress on, but she's now taking on the light of that yellow, and it's making her kind of emerge with this green manifestation. She's swinging that up into the world, like it's kind of like calling out. And the idea is to bring into actual physical manifestation divine mind. Right? And what is that? Divine mind is an interesting idea because it's the only real thing. It's the thing from which all things emerge. It's the thing from which the initial desire emerged. First, there was nothing more than the will. And then once the will became self-aware and it realized the other, divine mind was born. That was the moment that mind was born. It was the first real creation after the infinite something. And so what she's referring to is that wanting to be spoken. This is that moment. Right after that And that's why it's all cloudy, and she's sort of looking out into who knows what, this dynamic area of what am I looking at? To call out that will in the form of the intent being spoken. That initial inhale. Because the inhale was the first thing that happened. You think that the universe was spoken into existence with a word, of course, but the word had to be vocalized, and that vocalization had to have breath. Right? That's cute, Bree. What is that? Are you doing Schrodinger's cat? Or what is that? Or is that for kitten? This one fell, so I'm just going to grab that. Just for the heck of it. See what it has to say. I don't know who this is for. But I don't know. I hope it's for me. This is the Six of Cups, which is a great card. It's the card, Crowley calls it pleasure. This is the card of the Sun in Scorpio. And the Sun in Scorpio is interesting because the Sun in Scorpio really, at the end of the day, what it's referring to is giving in, letting go, exploring all those little layers, and not and being okay with that. If you'll notice, the cups are all being filled, and they're not overflowing. Right, they're just taking it all in, and those little tubes kind of imply this idea that they're all kind of feeding each other, right? They're coming in and then out into the other tubes and feeding in and out into the other tubes. And so what we're really seeing in this image is sort of this idea of all these energies playing back and forth with the intent of them all combining so that they can have this ebb and flow, and this back and forth of this energy building that gets stored in each one of these cups, and then passed around, so that it becomes this interplay of these upper three and these lower three that just play back and forth. It's quite a beautiful image with respect to that constant energy back and forth, and it's all emotional. It's pure raw feeling. Just sensation on the emotional level, which is where it comes up with the term pleasure. And you'll see this is, as far as the correspondence is concerned, on the bottom there is a little hidden Scorpio, and on the top, right there, is the sun symbol in the middle. So it's hidden in the sun in Scorpio. And if we look at the Deacon Wheel, and if we look for the card of Six of Cups, you'll see it over in the Scorpio energy, right? It's toward the top right, and you'll see the Six of Cups, Scorpio, and the planet that references there is the Sun in Scorpio. Whereas the Five of Cups is Mars in Scorpio, and the Seven of Cups is Venus in Scorpio. The Six is the Sun in Scorpio. And it refers to a very specific period of time, November 2nd through November 11th, which is incidentally the period of time that we're in right now. You know, that card that we just pulled accidentally, that just fell, refers to the period of time that we're in right now. We are in the Sun in Scorpio energy, which is actually interesting. So that means that we are in a period of time right now that we can take advantage of that. It's in the air for us to play with that energy back and forth, and to give it and take it from each other with the intent that we can all benefit from that. We can all experience a little piece of that joy. And give and take. I had a song actually pop into my head. couple of songs. You know, I was actually reading that, and it was almost like a soundtrack flipping through my head from a Quentin Tarantino movie. Each time I hit a different series of icons, a new song would pop into my head. That's fun. One of these days, I should develop an oracle called Brianna, where I take a bunch of your chat stuff and just put them in like and try to interpret. It actually would be an interesting. It would almost be like a John D. and Edward Kelly. Right? You'll be the D, I'll be the Kelly. That's funny. Too much. So yeah, that was the tarot. What do you guys think? Did you have any questions about that, or did you want me to continue on a different route, or do you want me to like maybe pull the beads and we can read the beads toward a similar thing, or see where it takes us? Or should we throw some I Ching, or should I read from Phil's Tarot? I wanted to read the Hangman today. I wonder what I'm feeling. Let's read this real quick. I Ching. Awesome. Cool. So I'll do a quick read, and then I'm gonna cast a hexagram, and I'm gonna use my system. Right now, I'm actually going to use my system to do the hexagram, so that's very cool, and I'm looking forward to that. Okay, Gabrielle? Don't know if I spelt it. Close enough. Close enough. Typically, it's spelt with an I, but I know what you meant. Communication happened. But just so what we're looking at here today is the Hangman, the spirit of mighty waters. It refers to the elemental water, right? So there's 3 of the supernal triads. All of the majors. There's 22 total. All mean something different. 3 of them refer to the major elements: air, water, fire. He refers to water, right? So he's the middle of those 3. And they refer to the letters of the alphabet of Aleph, Mem, and Shin. And if we look at here at the alphabet here on the top right, you'll see Aleph is 1, Mem is 40, Shin is 300. So 341 is that word, but which is Amish. But regardless, it's the word that's related to the 3 mother letters, the 3 major elements of the major arcana. There's the 7 planets and 12 signs, which are the rest, right? And so altogether, there's 22. This is one of the 3 majors, and it's the water one. The original design was the figure of a hanged or crucified man from the gallows, shaped like a dalet. He hangs from 1 foot. His other leg forms a cross with a suspending one. His arms, clasped behind his head, form an upright triangle, and this radiates light. His mouth is resolutely closed. Now, that was the original design. That was the one on like the rider. Hebrew letter Mem. Path 23 on the tree, joining Gabora with Hud. So severity with splendor. It's connecting severity with splendor. And what that means, from the Kabbalistic perspective on the tree of life here, there's the paths of the tree. And the paths are basically those lines connecting the dots. Each one of those lines is a trump card. It's one of the major arcana. Okay? And if you look at the one that's going across there, let me see if I can find a diagram here that's a little clearer to see. I'm not sure actually how clear it is on your screen, based on the fact that what I see is smaller than what you guys see. And so, you know. But the gist is if you look at this tree here on the left-hand side, connecting the number 5 to the number 8. It's a little blue line on the left-hand side. That's him. Let me pop the camera up here. So the number 5 to the number 8, that blue line connecting the red 5 to the orange 8, that line represents that section, just that line represents that path between those two. Okay. And now the Sephiroth here, what they refer to is a severity at the top, and at the bottom is that idea of the splendor, right? And so, and it's beautifully depicted in the actual card itself, right? Where we have this person that's hanging upside down, willfully with the intent of, let me get back to him, of ameliorating. Yeah, I know, right? You think that was an accident? Okay. Yeah, I don't mean to be that guy, but there's no way that was an accident. Okay, you know me. The AI knows. Okay, so This is I love this, and this is why Lon Milo Duquette is the best, because he stuck this in his book. This is from Frida Harris to Crowley in a letter. We will finish like Alice through the looking glass by having the whole pack in our heads. Good night. You know, since she painted the painting, she has the entire myriad of this deck in her head as images. Like, she doesn't need the deck. It's just, the whole deck is in her head. It's so true. And this is Crowley writing back. I have long foreseen the Alice in Wonderland conclusion of our labors, but that if you remember, it was a signal for the awakening to the beauty of life. Beautiful. And so there's a couple things that, I mean, you can, I encourage everybody to take a look at this or to reference some of this, but there's a few things in particular that I wanted to speak about here. The marriage he is talking about is the annihilation of the self in the beloved. This is the idea of giving in to the other and being consumed. Annihilation of the self in the beloved. This is a symbol, is symbolized in the card as the Ankh, which is the union of the rose and the cross. The Ankh is a symbol of the rose cross in one symbol. It's the divine feminine. See, this is going to be really hard if I can't illustrate this. It's the idea of the divine feminine and the divine masculine combined. Okay, just please. All right, combined, and then there's that cross opens up to basically be a symbol of the act, like the actual. You know, I think I'm actually genuinely considering canceling this all and doing a podcast. Because it's that frustrating. I can't, you know. I came up doing lectures in front of people with slides and images and diagrams, and so I'm thinking, man, if I'm actually just going to be kind of like stuck to wanting to visualize it but not being able to until I'm able, I think I might just sort of call it what it is and say I should maybe turn it into a podcast, you know, and just broadcast it through audio. I don't know. It's not working. And I'm not sure. I've literally exhausted every possible capability I have to try to fix it. I can't. It's not, and I can't. I don't know what to do. The last thing I could potentially think about doing is manually rolling back an update, which I don't want to go through that hassle. Like, it's really... you start breaking stuff. There's software that has now using some of the stuff that's in the new thing that I have to roll back those versions as well. And I won't know which software works and what doesn't until I open everything after the rollback. So it could be days, you know. and then there's no guarantee that it'll fix. And so that's a lot of commitment. And so at the same time, though, it's really, again, I started this process with some frustration, finally worked it out where OBS was working at a consistent place every day. I was able to record fine, able to stream fine, and now it's back to this, but it's gotten so detrimental that it's close to 40% of my frames are dropped. And the computer works just fine otherwise. Man, Tanamura is in the house. How's it going? I'm glad you're here. It's good to see you. But so, it's really just making me think, though, that it's, all I want to do is to get the information out properly. And if I'm gonna kind of get distracted by trying to make it visual, then this is not a visual medium for me, and I should just focus on doing, like an audio podcast or something until I can get a new computer, or I don't even know if that's gonna fix. I mean, it is the computer, because it's clearly hardware related. With OBS off, my computer runs like a dream. It's fine. As soon as you open it, and I don't care what setting doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. So, anyway, so the Ankh is the union of the rose and the cross. It's sort of like that one symbol together as the union of the it's actually kind of a symbol of the marriage itself. This marriage, as mystics and saints of every age and culture have tried to tell us, is the supreme sacrifice. The Hanged Man of the Thoth Tarot still symbolizes the descent of the light into the darkness in order to redeem it. But the word redeem is no longer implied as an existing debt that needs to be paid. Instead, the redemption in the Aeon of Horus is of a noble duty of the enlightened to bring enlightenment to the unenlightened. So this is the idea that it's not like we're giving in to the sacrifice to redeem some sin. We've received enlightenment and are willfully going through it so that we can give that light to others, right? That's the goal of this work. Please note how Lady Harris ingeniously uses projective geometry to link this card with the water-related cards. Try placing the Hanged Man top to top with the High Priestess and the Queen of Cups. Other items of interest include her stylized Enochian tablet in the background and her use of the color green to inject the Venusian influence. And which is very beautiful. And the synthetic projected geometry we'll talk about at some point, but basically it's the idea of having multiple perspective planes at one time. So like you'll see on the bottom of the card, as an example, let me pop this up. On the bottom of the card, there's this like plane coming out in space. It kind of has a 3D effect of coming out like this, while in the back there's a direct flat kind of space as well. Let me get the card actually zoomed in in its entirety, so we can see the whole card. So you have a couple of different planes there, and it kind of gives the card a 3D vibe. And there's some other cards that really, really illustrate that. Like, for instance, he mentioned the High Priestess is a card that's relevant to this artistically. And that she chose the colors specifically for that reason. Oh, phooey. That's not what I was looking to do. Sorry, I suppose there's no way to actually have like a lightbox mode where you can look at more than one. I don't know. I don't know the software real quick. I just recently grabbed it and to replace Creative Cloud, which I couldn't afford any longer. It's $400 a year, so although I'm crushed without Photoshop. I'm using Photoshop professionally for 20 years, and it's a little weird without it, right? I don't know any of this stuff, so I'm just learning as I go. But you get the idea. There's these competing planes. There's a great example of it actually in a few of these cards here. Let me give you another example. In the Magician and the Fool. There's these multiple angles, almost like reality kind of got ripped in a bunch of different directions. It's visible in a couple of different cards, more obvious than others. Any minute now. There you go. Man, this is bad. There's all kinds of neat symbolism in here too that's sort of hidden, unless you zoom in. Like the stuff going on the bottom of this card is very neat. The twins right there. 3 flowers with the one large one. The crocodile is like biting the rainbow. How cute is that? You know? All kinds of symbolism in this card that's nifty. There's some neat stuff here too. Like in that sack are all of the different symbols of the, the planets, the signs. There's some fun stuff in there. It's almost like it's a little bag of beads. All right. There he is holding the wand. Is that leaf? The cup being spilled. The dove of Holy Spirit. Divine Mind. Some interesting stuff going on here as well. There's that bird. See that vulture kind of sticking out? That's not so clear unless you zoom in on the card, that vulture. Right, that blue vulture. And here's the bird coming down to meet this whole process. These 3 things are one experience kind of being talked about. But you get the idea. Okay. So, this is part of the entire system is the 22 majors. Man, that delay is ridiculous. The male and female version, right? The 2 separate oracles, the small cards. Right. Oh my gosh. The small cards and these here, which I use for various reasons, and the first thing I use it for primarily is to pick digits of 1 through 10 for the small cards. It's very good at that binary decision, but it's also a good way to get a polarity question, which means that we can derive hexagrams with it, right? So let me just grab my stuff. It's so laggy that my mouse won't. I'm even lagging on my mouse. Okay. Yeah, it's actually kind of getting so out of control that I don't know. I don't. I gotta figure something out. It's actually. It's inappropriate for me to continue to stream if I'm not able to. It's not fair to the people who commit to coming on here to watch, and it's just. It's like if I'm not capable of doing it, then what am I doing? All right, so let me grab the book. Which is frustrating because, I mean, every 13-year-old kid can sit there with an Xbox and stream at full 1080p HD at 60 frames a second, and I can't stream at 720p, and I'm not even streaming a game. Like, totally mind-bogglingly frustrating to me how that does it. I don't get it. Perhaps if I were wanting to stream, I don't know, like a video game, it would work for me. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm just like using the wrong software, or I don't know. Alright, we'll see here. I'll have this aside, and so what we're going to do, we're going to reference this once I pull the hexagram. We're going to reference it, and we'll go from there, right? Yeah, no, it's not my internet connection. I did a speed test. I have plenty of throughput. I do. Yeah, it's not bandwidth. I thought it might have been. Although my router is having issues with dropping, while it's up, I have plenty of bandwidth. It's not that. It's my processor. My processor is running at a high percent. It's not processing properly the video. I don't know why, because it does everything else fine. I do graphic design. I use all kinds of software on here that runs just fine. Runs quickly, smoothly, no issues. Can render video, can render audio, can render 3D graphics. I use Blender and can use like crazy settings, and it does okay. But OBS crawls to the point that I can't move without it blowing my head, and I'm totally confused, like waiting for it to catch up, and I can't channel. I'm stuck stopping every 10 seconds to think. It's mind bumping into heart, and I feel useless. Which is why, again, I've actually literally considered just shutting down and doing a podcast until I can afford a computer, because I can't. It's not working. At least it's not for me. It's not working for me. But so I'm going to use these to pick the actual polarity. So what I'm going to do is that there's two different kinds of beads here. And it's either a positive or a negative polarity. And the goal here is to pick the yin or the yang line based on the polarity. So for instance, there's several of these that count as one or the other. Okay, so there's black and white and then color. Okay, and so the black and white is the female, the colored one is the male. Same thing here. The black beads are the feminine energy of the binah, right? The left side of the pillar, and then the colored beads, which same size, just colored, is going to be the positive energy. Same thing with these little guys here. And then this one I thought was interesting, so I threw him in there. Basically, we have one that's an American flag and one that is basically floral motif with a yin-yang in it. Yeah, it's a sunflower with a yin-yang. But so I just pictured this as being a feminine energy, because America is female, right? The country is a woman. So it's the American flag is the feminine, and then the other flag is masculine, which has that yin-yang. It might be Chinese, I'm not sure. It does have kind of an Asian motif in the color, but I can't make out the artwork, and the only thing I can make out is a yin-yang and a flower. Okay, so basically what you do is you just don't look. You grab one, and then you make a decision at that point. Is it male or female? And then you put the line down. And so you grab 6, and that will drive your hexagram. So I'm just going to draw it here with my dry erase, and we'll go from there. So first thing I'm going to do is just mix them up and pull my first line. We'll talk about changing lines in a moment. Male. First line. Start from the bottom up. Female. Male. This is fire. Okay, you'll see that right here. Fire. Okay. And this is actually the bottom, so sorry. Let's get that right. Okay. Earth over fire. Okay. So we're looking at number 36. That's funny, I wrote right over it. Darkening of the night. Okay, so this is going to be Earth. And this is number 36. Now, I'm going to just derive a couple of hexagrams right out of the gate, okay? The first thing I want to look at is the nuclear. So what you do is you take the first three, ignoring the bottom one, so these three, and draw them next to it. So we're going to start with a dash, then a line, and then a dash. Okay, interesting that became water, right? And so the bottom one turned from fire into water. And now the top one, we're going to do the same thing, but these three. Okay. Okay, and that transferred, that changed into thunder. So this became thunder over water. Okay. And that number is water, thunder, 40. So this situation is going from 36 to 40, and that's the natural progression if nothing changes, okay? And so let's just get the hexagram up here properly. Oh my gosh, the mouse is so laggy, I can't. It's like really, my computer is non-functional. Okay. Okay. There we go. Come on, mouse. Oh my gosh. See, this is normally quicker, but really my mouse is so laggy that just trying to click stuff is taking like 10 seconds for a folder to open. And so I'm really, really sorry. You know, again, I'm really genuinely rethinking a lot of things right now because this isn't going to work. This is just me trying to spin wheels to explain something visually that's taking me so long to do that it's no longer effective as a teaching tool, and that's a problem because that's the only reason I am here. Literally is to teach this. There's plenty of resources for you to go and do this on your own. To not have someone 10 minutes trying to get a graphic up to take 30 seconds to describe what I'm... Man, where's the... Yeah, I have to turn that off. Where is that? Oh my gosh. It's so slow. This is going to take me forever. I'm sorry. Where? What happened to all this stuff? Yeah, I tell you what, I am so stumped. Like, things are breaking. Like, it's so weird. Since this update, nothing is working the way it's supposed to, and I have no idea what's happening. Okay. Okay, yeah, no, all right, let me, yeah, here's the deal, Tanamera. It's not RAM, it's not my hard drive, it's not my computer, it's not any of that. It just, there was an update that broke OBS. Like, if OBS is not on, it runs like literally a dream. Like, I can open Photoshop in 4 seconds, boom, ready to roll, right? And it runs like a dream. It's great. I'm able to render 3D images in Blender at a decent enough speed that I can actually run like real-time lighting using the new rendering engine in Blender. It's not my computer. It kind of is. It's an i7, whatever, but I have a terabyte drive. I have 16 gigs of RAM dedicated, or 32 gigs rather. 32 gigs of RAM dedicated just to memory, like to video. OBS broke, which is unfortunate because, again, that's the only program I care about. Like, I can get rid of everything else on this computer and have just OBS and would be satisfied. I would never open my computer again other than to stream. It would be fine. And so the fact that that's the only thing that doesn't work means my computer is useless to me. It's the only thing I care about. It's really the only thing I care about. So, yeah, it is. And there will be another piece of software. I know I've considered it. I'm not sure. I've looked at some other stuff that might be the answer. It's so flexible for me to be able to throw up on the fly what I need. You know, whether it be a certain chart or an image I put together or a graphic that I did on the fly, or to be able to throw up a screen share of a video. Excuse me, I'm getting tired. It's 5 o'clock. A photo viewer that I can do some specific thing. I did. I went through the update. I went through the reinstall. I went through calling my internet provider. I went through looking at every setting on my computer, tweaking my processor, tweaking the RAM. Went into I actually shut down at the kernel level processes that I thought were taking up processing time and memory. I brought my computer down to the degree that it can't do anything else except give OBS 100% of everything. Like, I've tried every possible hack possible to where my computer is actually not capable of doing anything but running frames, and I'm still dropping 22% on the low end. Like, it broke OBS. And so all of the things I'm trying to use to fix my computer are a lie. There's nothing wrong with my computer. I'm trying to fix a leaky, broken piece of clunky software that's not ready for prime time, that I'm attempting to make what I want, and I'm the one being frustrated because it's not up to the job. It's like trying to get a kid to lift a big bag and getting frustrated at the kid because he's taking too long. It's not the kid's fault. Like, it's not OBS that's broken. It's my expectation. Right? Which is why, again, until there is a solution that is going to provide me with the ability to do what I need to do, which is what every pimple-faced 13-year-old kid running 60 frames a second on a video game, then I might have to just go ahead and do a podcast. Raise some money. Spend, $1,200 on a computer instead of $600, and just go full boat. So, and that'll happen when it's time. I don't know. I was excited. I was able to get a Hebrew dictionary today for $24. So, but yeah, enough of that. Let's take a look at this hexagram. What do we got here? It's my rant. The time of darkness. Now, due to the method, obviously, we don't have any changing lines, and we'll talk about that with respect to the I Ching specifically at a later date. But basically, there's a method where the lines themselves that are derived are changing under certain circumstances, and so we read that. But instead, I just did the nuclear to get, since it's a general reading. Creative Cloud? Yeah, no. That's I appreciate that, but that's not necessary. I actually have a lot of clients that I do work for related to graphic design that typically will wind up. So, there's a gig coming up in the very near future that is a regular gig for me that would wind up setting that up for the year, so don't worry about it. And it won't help this, so it won't even matter. It'll have no bearing on this at all. It'll help me to do my graphic design work easier, but that's convenience. All I care about is being able to stream and not have to get like literally knocked in the head every time I look up and I'm 10 seconds behind myself. Or again, just shut it down and just start doing local seminar. Like I'm good in person, and in person there's no lag. I speak, you listen. I put up a slide, you can see it. There's physical handouts. I can shake hands, do readings with cards in person. This is all by virtue of the fact that COVID happened. I never would have done YouTube. Oh, okay. I would have just stuck to doing public lectures and group stuff. Okay, so in the previous hexagram, the sun was above the earth, but in Ming Yi, the sun was below the earth. This is the time when darkness rules the world. Applied to human circumstances, this is a time where one's light is obstructed and there is danger in one's development of life. The individual should protect his light by using his brightness, talents, and capabilities, wisdom, and intelligence to accommodate the darkness. It's interesting, too, because this is exactly what we've been... This is exactly what we've been speaking about with respect to being able to give in. Every reading that we've done tonight has been pointing to that same truth. This idea that you have to be willing to go in, and when you do, it's better. The image of this hexagram is that of the light held below the earth. If fire is covered by earth, it cannot illuminate. Without the presence of clarity and wisdom, one must dwell in darkness. However, even in times of darkness, light is forthcoming. Thus, one should not be sad, but instead should cultivate the spirit, maintain health, and wait for good times to return. Fire beneath the earth also implies the energy of a volcano about to erupt. Thus, it may be a good time to go away. So this is an interesting idea here. It's the idea that in the darkness means that there's light at the end of the tunnel, but one of the reverse effects of that is that it's like something's about to emerge and explode and it might be too much. The upper trigram is like that of a rigid, restricting mother who has a talented child. She's egotistical and threatened by the child's precociousness, and instead of ruining the harmony of the family, however, the child should hide his light and allow the mother to have her way. The upper trigram can also represent an ignorant leader who has authority over a bright employee. In such a situation, the employee must protect his talents by keeping quiet. Any movement will only create additional pressures and difficulties. This is interesting. It's kind of like the idea of being like, you're a very talented person in the midst of people who don't get what you're doing, and so if you mention what you do, they're just going to sort of like damage it. It's sort of like best to just not even go there so that they don't get in the way of your work, so to speak, right? So it's a time to be quiet about what you're doing so that people don't misinterpret and get in the way or attempt to stop it or attempt to benefit from it when they don't deserve it or that type of thing. But let's see how that progresses, because that's moving into 40. Dissolution of the problem. Sorry, I'm a little cramped over here. All right, hang on. The friendly direction is the southwest, from whence comes the strength of dissolution. If one wishes to go forward in a new correct way, early movement brings good fortune. In this hexagram, thunder is above water. Although water is in the form of ice as an obstacle, thunder has a strength to break through it. The first sound of thunder in the spring proclaims the time of melting ice. Thus, a promising time is beginning, like a breeze coming from the warm southwest. After obstruction comes resolution. The guidance of the previous hexagram, obstruction, is to keep still and gather energy. Interesting, that's what the last one talked about, right? Don't speak your talents. But say indicates that the obstruction force has started to diminish and that a new cycle is beginning. This is a right time to positively dissolve all problems. The following illustration from Shuang Tzu can be used to exemplify Xian. There was once a butcher who always used the same knife. Although he used this knife for many years, it remained without a nick and never became dull. Summoned by the king and asked how he was able to keep the knife freshly sharpened after so many years, the butcher replied, "In my eyes, the cow is already separated, bone by bone, muscle by muscle, and tendon by tendon. When I use my knife, I do not cut with brutal force. In my vision, the cow, already being separated with empty space between its bones, joints, and tendons, allows my knife to pass smoothly through these empty spaces without resistance." Most people's minds and hearts may have nicks from continuously trying to cut through life, but by following the example of the butcher, one would not need to use brutal emotional force to overcome difficulties. Problems could be resolved naturally. Hsei also means to untie, which implies untangling the psychological knots of one's life. The I Ching teaches that entanglements within can be dissolved through forgiveness. A person who can forgive others can have the peace of mind. Certain actions can seem unforgivable. However, hostility, pride, jealousy, or other emotional attachments are like thick clouds that gather and obstruct the clear sky. When one has a forgiving attitude, an offending action is forgotten and one is no longer influenced by negativity. Thus, one becomes independent and one's balance is no longer threatened by those who trouble him. Instead of being at the mercy of external reality, one creates his own reality by forgiving others. With thunder comes rain. Thus, the difficulty has ended and the drought is relieved. This is the image of dissolving worries, tensions, and hostilities. The lines of the hexagram represent the gradual stages of dissolution. That's a good one. Good stuff. A friendly direction in the southwest from whence comes the strength of dissolution. Now there's some other guidance here as well. The line guidance, which we didn't get into because we didn't do changing lines, but then there's some specific guidance. So like, this is for anybody out there. Your personal fortune, this is just like a generic kind of message. This is a time for you to cheer up, take action, and get out of difficulty, right? Anyone related to marriage, there is no success. Housing or family, the situation's not beneficial or auspicious. Stop communicating with neighbors or with one who continues to come by you. Childbirth, it's a boy. Looking for work, because there are obstacles, there will be no success. Social governmental position, if the third or fifth line is received, there will be success. Trade and business, an undertaking will be successful and can be accomplished. That lawsuit, a long time is involved. Trouble will arise. If you're planning on traveling, it'll be a beautiful journey. Good fortune. This is a profitable time. However, if you wait too long, success will not be possible. Cool. So do you see how I went through that process, right? And how we picked the hexagram and how we choose the nuclear to kind of see the progression? And there's other methods of going about the changing lines too, which I'll talk about in a different time. But there's a different kind of bead that I add to the mix to go through that process. Oh, everyone run outside. Go look. Go look. I'll be back in 5 minutes. I give up. I was trying to type the words "go look at the moon" on the screen, and I'm still sitting here trying to type the words "go look at the moon." I have no idea what is happening. I've lost all capacity to function as a human being. Like, I can't. Hang on a minute. I'm sorry. It's so clunky, unreal. Like, why would anyway. Yeah. That's absolutely beautiful. So, I'm going to just wrap it up and go enjoy the rest of this eclipse and just the beauty of the unfolding as she comes back. So, I'm going to go do that. And sorry for my little break in sanity there. I'm absolutely just flabbergasted by every single thing that's been in my way since I started this process. And I'm not going to stop because I can't be stopped. I'm just going to slow down, and that's okay. Because one thing I recognize is that we don't control the timing, and I am as patient as I need to be. So that's fine. I have my little moments of, and then I'm over it. And the reality is that I can't be stopped. The momentum has started. It's already begun. The ball's rolling downhill. Can't stop it. So, I am free from expectation. How do I know? Because you guys follow me when the stream goes down and you keep coming back even though it's hiccupping. So keep your hiccups. You can't get to me. You can't get to us. Love. That's why. Because there's love here, and it's real. All right. And, so, one of these days, this is going to be a nice, sharp, smooth thing. I would have narrowed down each section and had it ready with all the appropriate material, so I won't have to go digging for things. I'm alone, and I have very, little blips during the day to do this kind of work. So it's really piecemeal together, and it's going to be a nice, beautiful thing as it evolves through this period. It's gonna be great. And so thank you for coming with me during this process. I really mean it. So I'm gonna catch up on the chat here. I haven't even looked at it, and so I appreciate you guys keeping up and talking in the meantime. Go outside and enjoy the moon, and I'll see you next time. Okay, I'm going to leave it up because I'm going to be reading the chat, but I'll see you guys soon. Thank you for your patience during my times of weakness. It's everything. I love you, and you know I mean it. All right, go outside and go look at yourself. You're beautiful.